Audio. We're gonna go video in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so I have not been doing a very good job at actually getting back to people's comments, and in my defense, YouTube has basically not notified me of any comment, or any sort of interaction really, for probably close to a year at this point. It's been quite a while. Actually, I think it's probably closer to like 10 months or so. But a couple days ago, they did finally start notifying me about comments again. And I've kind of been looking for like different types of videos, different types of content and stuff to make. I want to get more interactive with a lot of stuff. So I thought, hey, you know what? I remember a lot of people that I used to watch on YouTube. Actually, some people I still occasionally do. They used to do these, like, reading your comment videos. So I thought, you know what? Let's just go for it. Actually, to be honest, I also need to do some audio tests because an update for a program, it might have reset my target audio by like minus 20 decibels. Anyway, that aside, Gravity Circuit, Part 5. Oh yes, my favorite circuit ever for my profile pic. She's an elegant robot. Yeah, Medley, she's, like, without question, my favorite of the circuits. While all of the others kind of lean a little bit more towards, like, kind of psychotic and arrogant and, I guess, just straight up malicious, Medley was kind of, like, playful and fun. Like, straight up like, yeah, I might not be in, like, full control of myself. I might not have a choice but to, go through this whole apocalyptic path in front of me. But she, still kind of went about it with her own kind of style. Plus, to be honest, I see Girl Robot and I'm like, heh, cute. Jack 2 number 2. Love this game. Glad to see people still uploading Jack content outside of speedruns. Keep up the great work. Yeah, thanks, I guess. I have no idea how to take a compliment. Yeah, Jack 2 is one of those games that actually not even Jack 2, just Jak and Daxter in general. It was a game series that I really wanted to revisit for a very long time. And again, I'd been following Open Goal and their development and stuff for quite a while. Actually, to be honest, I probably check their devlogs, I want to say somewhere between once a week and once every 2 weeks, just to see if there's any news about Jak 3, which I know I can get in there and I can force it to work, despite it being buggy and crashing, but I think I'd rather actually wait for them to, basically get it in a state that I guess that they're actually proud of. Jak 2, number 20. Hearing the Baron Praxis propaganda announcements is so funny when you realize it's Mr. Krabs' voice actor. Yeah, the amount of random SpongeBob phrases that I had to cut out every time I would zoom past one of those towers or start hearing basically Baron Praxis say anything. And towards the end of the game, I was thinking, you know what? I really should have just left it in as just a running gag. One of those things where, if you know, you know. But yeah, it was one of those things that I couldn't help myself. BioShock Remastered number 14. I recommend doing a casual playthrough of the original. Actually, I did do that. So the remaster, at least on Steam, came with both the original and the remaster. And I genuinely regret not recording the original. Because even though, the resolution is lower, the geometry is a lot rougher, and obviously the textures are quite a bit lower, or at least lower resolution, it is without question the better experience. The game actually functions, there are still some bugs and stuff, but it's nowhere near as broken as the remaster is. I didn't have to use a single cheat or glitch or, basically teleport through a wall to actually play the original, the way that I constantly had to do in the remaster. Another BioShock Remastered number 14, looks like your game glitched on Cohen being dead. Yeah, I don't know what was happening with that. I actually I ended up cutting it out because of there were so many bugs and problems with the remaster that I actually went back and killed Cohen 3 times. And at first, like, I thought it would just be, kind of funny to include in the recording. But because of how much stuff was broken and inconsistent with the original, or not the original, the remaster, I kind of just decided to leave it out and just focus solely on the story because of just how rough it actually was. Which again is a shame because it does have a good story and a really interesting world. It just, the remaster is, there's enough bugs and like actual broken bits that it actually detracts from the game. Because don't get me wrong, I love buggy games. I love janky physics. I love when things get weird. But when it becomes a detriment, that is actually a problem. And the remaster, without question, it was a problem. Tears of the Kingdom number 26. You can feel happy knowing YouTube is showing your content to Zelda lovers like me, cause I seen it and I clicked it from my homepage. Thank you? That actually, I appreciate the sentiment, but that actually kind of fills me with a bit of dread, if I'm being honest. Actually, YouTube has started showing me my own videos on my own homepage, and every time I see them, I'm like, ew, gross. Tears of the Kingdom number 31. Cool video. Sidon is Knuckles' Nintendo's counterpart. Yeah, I feel like if Nintendo actually, like, took advantage of Sidon's popularity, or, just decided to actually do more with him, they could have easily had, like, a massive mascot. Or I should say, like, a new mascot. Because, obviously, they have Mario, they have Zelda, they got Luigi, but those characters are all, like, 40 years old. So I feel like Sidon could have been a really, really cool new mascot, or at least, a fresh new face, that they could have done so much with, but, in typical Nintendo fashion, they kind of just, put him on the shelf, and he's just kind of completely been forgotten. Tears of the Kingdom number 34. Awesome video. If Mipha lived and got to marry Link, Sidon would be Link's brother-in-law, Yono would be Link's and Mipha's sister-in-law, and King Doforian would be Link and Yono's father-in-law. It would be a cute family. That's actually one of the things I think this game did incredibly well. Like, probably better than anything else, is it really made it clear everything that could have been. And it's that kind of, that kind of sad tragedy that really shows just how much of an impact Ganondorf had on this world. It makes it all that much more tragic, and, even King Doforian and Sidon, they quite literally, like, openly say that they, Link is still family to them because of how close Link and Mipha were. I think it's one of those things that, for me at least, made, Zora's Domain and, like, that entire section of the game probably my favorite part of the game. At least, in terms of, like, storytelling and world building and stuff. Again, it really lays into just the tragedy and the doom and just, all the lives that have been ruined because of Ganondorf. And it shows it in a way that's, like, personal to the character you play as and to the characters all around you. Tears of the Kingdom number 41. Man, you were the... Oh, I didn't get the full comment. Crap, give me a second. Man, you're the only one who thought the same as well about the dragons. I was wondering why no one in 9 years has made some artwork of Link with a bag full of scales, claws, and fangs, aiming his bow at one of the dragons who looks absolutely obliterated, with 2 teeth left and missing scales all over, like, please, no more, no more. Yeah, I'm honestly just as shocked as you. Like, the amount of times that you basically farm the dragons for literally everything they have, like day in and day out. You want to upgrade armor? Well, it looks like you have to go assault a dragon. You want to do some random quest or make a weapon or almost anything? Well, guess what? You gotta go bully the dragons. Yeah, like I'm genuinely amazed that didn't become like a meme or something. Tears of the Kingdom number 26. With the Colgera fight, the suggested way is to dive through him. That's why you start off in the dive position, but a lot of players are so used to the Breath of the Wild drop paraglide drop method, they forget they can dive. Your mobility is 100% better in dive, especially in updrafts, or they just use the bow and arrow. But that's why on the way up to the Wind Temple, you come across those same circular ice patches that you have to dive through? I'm not actually sure what ice patches you're talking about, but who knows, maybe that's why I struggled with it so much. But trust me, bro, don't forget the dive button. Just a little tap on the R. I'm saying this because some in-game triggers are linked to you being in dive mode. Cool part. Yeah, honestly, it wasn't until the very end of the game that I actually realized just how much more mobility and control you had while diving. It was something that, like, I don't know, it clicked when I realized it, and I realized how so many other parts in the game were actually intended for you to probably be using that. This game has so many systems, so many, like, niche uses for so many things that don't have any tells, don't have any explanations, and unfortunately, because the game came out after Breath of the Wild, I think people were just expecting it to be more Breath of the Wild, so they never really stepped out of their comfort zone. Like, if Tears of the Kingdom came out on its own, people would have been so much more, like, willing to actually go and try everything, to really explore and, you know, test the boundaries of what's capable. But unfortunately, it came out after Breath of the Wild, so I think people's willingness to experiment was significantly lesser. And usually I don't like when games straight up tell you, like, what to do and what you can do. But this would have been one of those cases that, because of that context, it would have made a massive difference if they would have actually, you know, pointed some of those things out. Super Mario World number 1. This game is so cute. Yeah, it is. And maybe it's just nostalgia speaking, but, like, I think Super Mario World, of all the Mario games, is without question my favorite. Tears of the Kingdom number 58. Bro, how do so many people forget about the dive mechanic and go for the awkward Breath of the Wild paraglide drop method? Yeah, I actually think I kind of sort of acknowledged what I would say about this in the previous one. Sorry, man, just 2 minutes in, it's crazy to think how many players do that. It even makes you miss out on certain cues in music, like the Falling Stars and Depths intro music. Actually, I guess that would explain why there's such, like, a weird, awkward silence when, you know, falling into the depths. I kind of just assumed it was to emphasize the point or, you know, hide, like, a loading barrier. Still love this game after 2 years, though. How do you enjoy your playthrough if this was your first time? Blessings. Honestly, by the end of the game, I was sick of it. I was actually forcing myself to play through this game, purely out of, I guess, guilt. I had someone who I promised I was actually going to play through this game with, but she passed away in 2020 due to, well, COVID complications. So I basically kind of sat down and forced myself to play this, and unfortunately, I started feeling like really massive amounts of guilt when I realized I did not like this game. Okay, maybe saying I didn't like this game is a little strong, but basically when I realized just how frustrated I was getting with it and how a lot of it was just, I wasn't having very much fun with. There were parts of this game that I loved, but unfortunately there was a lot of it that just, it was mostly frustrating more than anything. And I was not in a headspace to actually come to terms with that. And to be honest, it's been like 6 years, and I think I would just now be starting to get into the headspace where I could probably play through this game, you know, without that kind of weight. So yeah, I kind of had some very unhealthy coping mechanisms that kind of didn't help. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth number 2. The Promise. That was one of those really snarky remarks that I made, like, without even thinking about it. And I was really going back and forth thinking like, should I remove that in editing? But I'm actually really glad that I kept it in, because I think it was just subtle enough that if you know what's up, you know what's up. And it's kind of, kind of a nice little callback or whatever. But if you had no idea what that was referring to, then it's like, it just sounds like some weird, like some person on YouTube being weird, like, just disregard it and move on. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth number 1. Finally, non-spoiler pro tip, this game has a lot of side content, but don't feel obligated to complete it before moving on with the main story. The game is so side quest heavy that it can burn out the unaware completionist. Actually, to be honest, as far as side quests and additional content, I was actually disappointed with how little there was. The part where the disappointment actually came in was so much of it was just talk to this person, go over here, do, whatever, whether it's fight this enemy or just watch a cutscene and then go back and you're done. At first, it was kind of interesting because it was unique. But after you get the same exact things over and over and over again, it kind of was just a little disappointing. If anything, though, I think the part that really causes the burnout was unfortunately the final dungeon. It was too damn long. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth number 2. 7 days no sleep, no important life decisions, Sephi. Yeah, seriously, just good life advice to anyone. No important life decisions after 7 p.m. Or, if you're sleep deprived or, whatever. You can think about it, but sleep on it. Think about it. Make the actual decision when your thought capabilities are not compromised. Plus, again, just putting that into context with Sephiroth, it's like, you can see how a single bad decision, a single moment of anger, completely changes the course of basically history and the future. Tears of the Kingdom number 56. Bro, you can just tap R as well, right? You don't need to dive bomb. Yeah, again, I think in one of the previous ones, I probably said what I'd just be re-saying here. I actually didn't think about that. Maybe I should have screened through a lot of these before taking screenshots and then, yeah. Tears of the Kingdom number 52. Bro, when your weapon falls off a sky island, just use recall. That ability has a reach as far as your sight goes, so it can fall all the way to the ground. If you can manage to put your cursor on it, the distance doesn't matter. You'll always get your gear back. I actually did not know that it had that kind of range. That is kind of cool though. Tears of the Kingdom number 54. Also, it was best to fuse things like the construct horns to Minoru rather than the dropped weapons. I think it enhances the power of Zonite fusibles like horns. Again, another mechanic I really wish there was like an actual explanation of, because yeah, now that I think about it, that would have helped so much rather than just, I guess, giving Minoru weapon after weapon to break, or even worse, kill me with, because God, did that happen so many times. Same video. The hover stone attached to Minoru's back gives you lower gravity when walking off of something, allowing you to cross gaps while just airwalking, so it does something, you just never walked off an edge while activating it. Again, so many niche uses for so many things that are never explained or even hinted at. Which again, I just want to clarify, is not a bad thing by any means, but the amount of time that I actually spent trying to figure that stuff out and just didn't use it in a very specific way, it's, I don't know, it kind of feels like a little bit of a waste. Or I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth number 19. Every side quest has character development. You can record them and just post the ones you liked best. But I personally would like to hear your opinion, choices, and results on all of them. Yes, this was early enough in Rebirth that I was still planning on going back through the game a second time. and getting like all of the different dialogue options and then basically trying to string it together in a way that felt like the entire group was, well, basically with you at all times. Unfortunately, again, that final dungeon left me so burnt out that I have yet to even go back and attempt hard mode. And even though I have thought about it, to be honest, I am... how do you say this? I think I would rather reminisce about the good parts of this game rather than be disappointed all over by the bad parts. Battle tips, don't sleep on Aerith's ward stacking ability. Actually, I did try stacking wards, but every time I used one, it made the other one disappear, so I kind of assumed that just wasn't a thing. Use synergies. They grant boosts and can also be used to dodge attacks. Actually, that would have been really, really smart. I think there were some parts that I started doing that. The problem is I think there were a lot of attacks that will hit you regardless. So it kind of got to the point where it's like, you know what, I'd rather just queue up a heal for the damage that I know we're going to take regardless. But, it is what it is. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth number 53. It's best to keep everyone loaded with materia at all times, even if it's a basic level 1. Everyone should have at least one element to cover elemental weaknesses, and one cure. Prayer on Barret and Tifa as the greatest ATB generators. Actually, I didn't think about putting Prayer on Barret. That would have been really, really good. Also, as far as the element stuff goes, I never really found much use for it. The whole Folio edition, I feel like it gave you a lot of freedom so that you really didn't need materia, which, to be honest, I feel like was more of an anti-frustration feature rather than like a mechanic that they actually decided on. Materia equipped on non-active party members still gains AP. Oh. I did not actually know that. As a full party game, everyone should be ready at all times. Trust me on this. Actually, the funny part is I went into the final boss battle with only Cloud and Aerith having any materia. And it wasn't actually that hard. It was just annoying. But to be fair, even when I did get a game over and did eventually go back and give them materia, because again, if you get a game over on any of the 12 phases, you have to redo the entire thing. At least if you want to, re-equip materia. And even then, it didn't help, at all. But yeah, the thing about, AP on, non-active party members, that actually would have been really, really good to know. Although, now that I think about it, took kind of until the end of the game before I even had enough materia to actually equip everyone with. So maybe it wouldn't have really helped that much anyway. For the third limit, you have to use 2 synergies that increase limit level with that character, and the limit level stays until the battle is finished, even if you use the limit several times. If you have a limit siphon, take a look at the combinations with different accessories. Actually, the funny part is I tried a lot to basically get the higher limit stuff, and I couldn't get past limit level 2. I followed guides, I looked up all the different ways of boosting limit levels. It straight up didn't work. And the thing is, I don't know if it was because I had to mod this game so heavily just to actually make it run, or, actually to have it in a playable state, despite the fact that none of those mods even remotely touched the actual combat system. So I don't know if maybe that was it, but I had a lot of stuff that people were telling me, hey, this is how this works, and I simply could not get it to work. You can fill up all the vessels, you just have to find all the breakable rocks, all of the enemies, and all of the rooms with scattered energy. Personally, I consider the temple of this game Hojo's Drum. It drags on for way too long. Yeah, it really does. Honestly, everything up to the temple was some parts were annoying, some parts were not very fun. This temple was straight up miserable. The first third was fine, because you had such a sense of wonder of oh, like, what is this? How does this all work? But after that first third, and then it's just more of the same and just endless fights and puzzles. And actually, it's not even puzzles. It's literally just a really, really bad maze full of like non-stop fights that don't add anything to the game. The final temple genuinely made me hate this game, which again is unfortunate because I really, really wanted to enjoy this game. It left me to a point where I genuinely never want to play another Final Fantasy VII game unless it is the original. That is just how bad that temple was. And again, I realize that sounds brutal, but unless the third and final part of the remake is like nothing but like 10 out of 10 reviews, I have zero interest in even looking at it. And for the lore, in the OG, the Turks did get inside the temple. Remember, Sang was stabbed in the mural room, he just dragged himself to the door. And Aerith is just Aerith. She doesn't remember her memories of the future. The Jenova influence in the story is deep, but not that deep yet. Though you should consider watching a video with the full Queen's Blood storyline. So yes, I did actually forget that Sung did actually like get all the way through the temple and then drag himself back out. As for the Aerith and Jenova stuff, I was genuinely coping so hard trying to think of any way that they could have actually made the basically the bastardization of this story good or unique or anything, that I was grasping for straws out of sheer cope. And as for the Queen's Blood storyline, I did end up watching it. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. The what is it? The Scarlet or Crimson Queen, whatever, was Jenova. The Emerald Knights were, you know, the Ancients or whatever forces of good. And honestly, it was just a really, really bad telling of basically, you know, what Jenova did. Or, you know, how those events happened. I actually think the original did infinitely better with it, and that is keeping in mind the fact that they never even told the story directly. They just implied it. You know, all the stuff through talking about Professor Gast and his research on the Ancients, Aerith's family, everything that you see and experience in the actual, like, you know, ancient capital, whatever. All the implications, even though they never directly told the story of what happened with Jenova, was still a better telling than this excuse of a, you know, shoehorned storyline wrapped up in a really, really miserable side game. Tears of the Kingdom number 40. Awesome video. Thank you? Is it arrogant to... here's the thing. I genuinely do not know how to take a compliment. Is it, like, arrogant to say thank you? Because I feel like it is. You know, it's like that dick move in Star Wars where What's-Her-Face is like, I love you, and he's like, I know. It's like, bro, I know you're supposed to be an arrogant asshole, but, like, damn. That's how I feel just even acknowledging, like... I don't know, maybe it's just me. I honestly am not good with, like, text-based communication. Super Mario World number 1. More of this content, please. I love this game. When I actually recorded this, I only had the intention of basically playing as Luigi. You know, only doing like this one-off video. But while I was editing and uploading it, I basically told myself that if anyone said anything or like asked for more of this game, I would just play through all of it. So this was, again, another comment that I did see. I just unfortunately did not respond or get back to it. Tears of the Kingdom number 44. 40 minutes of brain rot. Oh, I remember this one. I hate to say it, but I was so sick of this game that reading all of the gibberish was actually the most fun that I had in quite a while with this game. Peak gameplay. Yes, it was. Again, there are so many quests in this game that are just like, go here, activate the rock, go back, and then go to another rock, and then go back, then another, and back, and another, and back, and yeah. So just reading through all of this, it was incredibly refreshing. Tears of the Kingdom number 54. That temple was really short. It only had one room. You know, I never actually thought about that, but yeah, the Spirit Temple is literally just a single room. I mean, I guess early on, technically the islands around it are the actual dungeon when you go through the area for the first time. But yeah, the temple itself is literally just, yeah, it's kind of weird to actually think about it that way. Tears of the Kingdom number 52. I worked myself through those islands without having turned off the storms. It was an interesting challenge, felt like an idiot when I eventually managed to turn the storms off. For your information, the quest line that you're on is connected to the Construct Factory, but you might have figured that out already. Yeah, I think at this point I'd already actually finished recording the game. But yeah, when I was actually going through those Sky Islands, before I actually turned the storm off, I actually explored everything other than the actual dragon head, the final island. But I ended up editing it out just because there was really no point for it. So when I finally went back, it was like, wait a minute, I've already done all of this. Like, you know, what are we actually doing up here? And then I saw the final island and it was like, oh, of course. Yeah, no, I almost went through the entirety of them in the same exact way you did. Super Mario World Part 2. Keep up the good content, my man. Again, thank you. It feels so fake just saying thank you to, like, these kinds of things, because it feels like a copy and paste answer. And, like, I don't know, if I want to, like, express, like, gratitude or thanks, I hate saying the same exact thing over and over again. It feels so, like, so disingenuous, but I appreciate it. Tears of the Kingdom number 58. The first time I went to the final fight, I only had 3 of the sages, so then the game makes you fight the other bosses you hadn't encountered yet, and learning how to fight them on the fly without the appropriate sages' help was an added challenge. I actually got to Dwarf Phase 2, but was completely out of items, so I decided to finish the game as intended. It was great to watch you get through Tears of the Kingdom. Just thinking about all the editing you did on this project. Well done. Actually, funny enough, as I was thinking about saying on like that previous comment, you know, regarding the storms, there were actually videos in this game that I recorded like 15 plus hours of gameplay only to have like a 10-15 minute video. Like, honestly, even though it is months later, just reading that end about like thinking about all the editing you did on this project, like, you don't know how reassuring it is to read those words, even though it was not something I was really even thinking about or concerned with at the time. But looking back on it, like, you do not know how much reading that out loud means. Like, yeah. Again, for all of the other frustrations I had with this game, the amount that I actually had to play and then edit kind of really compounded all of it. It was brutal. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth number 1. Still going through my playthrough, so I'll watch the first chapter and then come back for the rest. Nothing but respect with this. Tears of the Kingdom number 58. Perhaps you are just a tad cynical? Oh, I actually feel like a lot of these comments are almost like just the next part of a conversation. And it's completely, like, coincidental. But yes, regarding the frustrations I had with this game, the pain of recording 30 plus hours of a game only to have, like, a 10-minute video, as well as, again, some of the personal stuff with this game, and unfortunately, like, forcing myself to play it in a very unhealthy way, as well as the fact that because I was recording this, I literally had to play it wirelessly, with the system docked, and then that would run through a capture card, and basically like the wireless controller plus the capture card plus the recording software plus that being split to the actual screen that I was watching while playing, it added so much of an input delay that certain parts of this game were actually unplayable. So yes, this game turned me into basically a mentally unstable cynic. and like, I'm in a place now where I can fully recognize that, and like, you know, I've distanced myself enough that like all I can really think about is like what I should have done, which was simply not play this game in that state of mind. But it is what it is. I was very cynical and just not in a great place while playing this. Tears of the Kingdom number 53. Another tip. The horse whistle works like a gathering call for all the sages, so if you're in battle and think you have to run after them to activate them, just try the whistle and they'll come to you. That is actually... I wish I would have known that. Not to mention the fact that I wish I actually remember there was even a horse whistle in the first place, because I simply never used it. Tears of the Kingdom number 58. Good take on the Ganon fight. Yeah, I really took the piss out of that fight. It was like... I think it was like 6 hours of trying over and over and over again, and then having to restart, prepare a whole lot more meals, you know, basically everything, just to then spend like another 4 or 5 hours trying it again. And again, with everything that I said about like the input delay, like, yeah, I don't think there's really much I could actually add. But I'm glad that at least someone looked at that and was like, yeah, I understand. Again, looking back at it, it actually means a lot more than I think I could ever actually express. So, thank you. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. Actually, I don't expect anyone to agree with me. But the fact that someone is like, hey, yeah, no, good take. It actually, like... means something, so yeah. XCOM Enemy Unknown. One shot. Dude, I love XCOM. I'm really glad you about to play it. Okay, here's the thing, and again, maybe it's just because I am really bad with like text-based conversation. I'm really hoping you understood that this was just a one-off video. And to be fair, I was going to go as far as I could actually go, and just, you know, condense it into a single short video. Unfortunately, I was not expecting to actually get wiped on like the second turn of the first like intro combat, and then get a game over from it. I actually thought it would just say like, hey, you failed, and then, you know, throw you back to like the base. I did not think the game was actually going to give you a game over, so like, I'm hoping this comment is like, you know, playing into the fact that like, oh boy, I love this game, I can't wait to see more of it, and then just immediate brutal game over. You know, Nuzlocke style. Although, to be fair, I was actually thinking, I do want to play more of this game. And the thing is, I have the bundle, you know, that comes with XCOM Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within. I actually really want to finally beat this game. So, it's something that I've been thinking a lot about, and at the moment, after I get like my audio stuff fixed and sorted out, I am actually looking into, you know, what to do next. So that is without question on the table. Sim Ant. This is adorable, LOL. Yeah, Sim Ant, like, don't get me wrong, a lot of the Sims games, okay, when I say Sims, I do not mean like The Sims. I mean like the actual like old, what were they? I think like the Maxis simulation games, aka Sim games. They were so like unique and, you know, creative and inspired by just so much weird stuff. But of all of them, Sim Ant was and is without question my favorite. So when I was basically going through a bunch of my old stuff and I found the old floppy disk with Sim Ant, I was like, oh hell yeah, I need to figure out how to get this working. Because again, it's for such an old Windows operating system that like modern Windows cannot even run it. Like, it doesn't even know what to do with the files. So it actually took quite a bit of like basically building on like, you know, emulations of old operating systems to actually get this functioning. But honestly, 100% worth it. I actually kind of want to go back and like, you know, do like a full game of this. It wouldn't be like the most visually crazy or, you know, story driven. It would just be a lot of dumb fun, if anything. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth number 40. What a terrible voice. Wait, like, my voice? or like my audio mixing? Or wait, no, because this was also the video where Red, revealed his, I guess his real voice. So like, which, what exactly are you talking about? Like, I don't mind, like, which one you're talking about, but I feel like I'm just more curious, and I just want the context. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth number 52. I'm a Star Ocean player, and someone who would get every Star of Destiny I could first playthrough in a Suikoden game, so Rebirth really made me appreciate the context the game gave everything. That the world wasn't just a backdrop for the characters lived as part of the world. My 132-hour playthrough of this the first time basically shows my taste. I will say, that is one thing that even the remakes do well, even though personally I think the original did infinitely better, is they actually make the world feel like it's not just a bunch of polygons with, characters thrown about for the sake of advancing a story. Like, honestly, it's one of those things that used to make Squaresoft games really stand out, because all of their games, okay, maybe not all, but like the majority of their games, they had that degree of personality that we just don't really see even in modern games. Dirge of Cerberus, number 11. Haven't seen this game in almost 2 decades. That's crazy. Please remember, this is all very canon. Actually, I've seen a lot of people complain about like how this game ruins the canon of Final Fantasy VII, but I don't actually see how any of that, like, clashes with it. I mean, yeah, there's some things where it's like, Lucretia is kind of a horrible person, but that's kind of the thing, is like, love is not rational. I don't think it was ever meant to be rational. Even in the original, like, Final Fantasy VII. And then even the stuff with, like, Omega Weapon and all that, like, it kind of makes sense, considering that Genova is kind of implied to basically feast on a planet and then leave to go spread amongst the stars. So the fact that, like, the planet also has a very similar countermeasure, I feel like I don't know. It's one of those things I could get into, but I don't actually mind. Again, I have seen some of the arguments about how it, like, ruins, like, the original and all that stuff. Oh, also, immediate comment to this one. What is this Metal Gear Solid 4 mod called? I'm not gonna lie, I don't fully understand this. I'm assuming because, like, maybe the gameplay is similar, so it's like, oh, ha ha ha, like, it's just a reskin of Metal Gear Solid 4. But to be honest, I've never actually played a Metal Gear game. So the only thing I really know is just like little videos that I've seen. And, obviously the memes. Dirge of Cerberus. Number 14. You're about to start the best part of the game, basically. Enjoy, mate. Yeah, I actually really, really like Dirge of Cerberus. There were some rough parts. There were obviously bits that could have been better, at least gameplay-wise. But the end was just so absurd and over the top and, like, fully embracing the edginess that it was kind of amazing. Especially with, like, just how self-aware it was about the absurdity. Again, I actually prefer Dirge of Cerberus to Rebirth. Samus bullies Kraid. 18 seconds. Samus. Oh, it's just Kraid. Yes, it is. And then she proceeds to basically cave his skull in like the overgrown cockroach that he is. Mega Man ZX Advent, number 20. Thank you for showing my favorite game. Honestly, Mega Man ZX and ZX Advent are probably some of the better Mega Man games. They're challenging, but they're not, like, absolutely torturously brutal the way that some of the Zero series games were. Meanwhile, they do have what feels like an almost perfect hybrid between, like, the gameplay styles of the classic and the X series of Mega Man games, all while retaining, like, its own unique style. Like, without question, ZX and ZX Advent are easily some of my favorite Mega Man games. And I have actually been meaning to go back and play through on the other characters. For a while, I was thinking about trying to do that on like a stream or something. The problem is I need to do a lot of stuff to actually make sure my internet can actually support the bandwidth for streaming. Mega Man X Randomized deserves more views. Randomizers are so fun. Actually, I've been looking at a lot more randomizers because for anyone who has not been with me for a while, I used to do tons of randomizers. Zelda, Mega Man, Metroid, even randomizers like between games. I did start a basically a Pokemon randomizer that I kind of ended up losing like all of the save data and stuff for. But I have actually been thinking about, actually, I'm not going to say anything yet because I don't want to jinx it. But there are some other randomizers I'm kind of looking into. Helldivers 2, Training Day, War Bonds aren't crossovers, only the Halo one is. The others are just DLC you can pay for with in-game credits. Yeah, I have unlocked actually quite a few of those. I was actually debating while editing this whether or not I should actually cut out that line that I said, regarding basically crossovers and stuff. But the thing is, like, this was actually like my genuine first few games and experiences with Helldivers 2. So I kind of decided to leave that in, or at least, those comments in, even though while editing I knew they were wrong, just to share my naivety, or naivety? Whatever the word is, that basically I was experiencing while going through it. Mega Man X7, number 4, rolling on floor laughing. This is peak. Yeah, so I have two thoughts on this. I still remember while playing through this, like, this was the worst thing ever. That level was generally god-awful and beat me down to the point that, like, I was genuinely, like, on the verge of complete mind break. So when I finally got to the boss and he would not stop screaming, it was like the only thing I could do was just laugh in despair. It was brutal. But now on the other side of that, looking back at it, I genuinely love Flame Hyenard. He's, like, without question, my favorite boss in X4.
Can you hear me, Zero?
Again, with the whole hindsight, whatever, like, I've actually gone back and played through, maybe not all of X7, but a lot of it. And Flame Hyenard, again, favorite boss in the game. His voice actor actually does a really good job at, like, portraying that, like, that pained, crazed, like, voice. And even, again, the absurdity of, like, him constantly screaming, it wouldn't be so bad if the audio was just mixed better. So again, if anything, that's entirely on the audio team. Another Helldivers 2 had me laughing at entering the chiropod. Yeah, that was one of those things where, again, I was still getting used to the controls, so the fact that that actually happened and I got it on recording, I was literally looking at that like, there is no way, if I were to tell anyone about this, they would believe me. Some pointers. War bonds are in the game permanently. They aren't like timed battle passes in other games. Feel free to take your time unlocking stuff. Supercuts can be found in games. Reloading expends the rest of your magazine. Yeah, they do really go for the whole, realism thing with that. Which again, I actually think adds a really cool strategic value to the game. For general courtesies, do not take a support item a teammate calls in unless they explicitly communicate it is okay. If you want to know, then ask. One of my favorite things in this game is actually going to, like, low-level, like, emergency calls and just giving them, like, mech units, vehicles, heavy ammo, support items, and just watching them go to town. I actually re-downloaded the game just recently for, like, the first time in months, and it's all I've been thinking about doing. When squad is full, do not take more than one from resupply. If you accidentally team kill someone, just apologize and move on. No need to go further than that if they press the matter. Most won't and are pretty understanding that accidents happen. Yeah, so the reason why I actually stopped playing this was because I started doing online stuff and I got like almost exclusively incredibly toxic players. Like I was trying to finish one really high level mission, and the thing is, it was going fine. It was just taking some time. Someone joined me, immediately kills me, like 3 times over. And not like accidentally, I mean like literally guns me down at point blank, finds the pod after summoning me, kills me again, and then I eventually get away from him, go complete the mission. He wastes the entirety of all of our lives killing me in airstrikes, with ordinances, with just everything. And then when we're finally leaving, because I did end up just extracting without him, he sends a message that's like, wow, you wasted all of our lives. You really should not be playing on this difficulty. And the only thing I said was, check the friendly fire. And when all the stats popped up at the very end, he literally had as many friendly fire kills as I had deaths. And then I think he reported me. But the thing is, that was like one of those screenshots that I decided to take out of spite. So when like whatever team finally contacted me about it, I literally just sent them the screenshot and the recording. And when they finally got back to me, they were like, okay, yeah, you're fine. Have a good day. But it was so frustrating that I just uninstalled the game and just simply haven't played it since. Final Fantasy 15, number 5. You are so underrated. Smiley face. Again, I've already said thank you. I've already said I appreciate the sentiment. I feel like I just don't have like the lexicon of thanks, the vocabulary at the ready. So I appreciate it. I've already said that one. No, you. I'm really, really bad at taking compliments. I don't know. I don't know why I'm like this. Samus goes to the fridge to get a glass of milk. Where's the milk? Did she get the milk in the end? That's actually one of the best parts about this game. It really emphasizes the depth of this game, and it's the reason why I played through it multiple times. Because when you drop into the fridge, you do collect the milk, but it's so subtle that you almost miss it. Basically the final boss just jumps at you and that's that. But again, it's one of those really, really deep things about this game that really makes you question all of the twists and turns throughout it. And by the end, again, you're so caught up in just the events, the journey, all of the strife that's happened up to that point, that unless you're really paying attention, you can completely miss that. Again, you picked up the milk, which is it is the goal of your mission. And I feel like it just speaks depths about this game, about how absolutely incredible it is. But yes, to answer your question, Samus did end up picking up the milk. Final Fantasy 15, Episode Arden. Okay, so I'm gonna blur this because this is kind of spoilers for the end of the post-game DLC and everything. But the part I will acknowledge out loud is you should watch Kingsglaive if you haven't. Gives a lot of context to the attack on the city at the beginning of the base game. Also, you can see Diamond Weapon in its full glory. That last part sounds amazing. As far as Kingsglaive goes, I have been meaning to watch it. It's one of those things that I've pulled up videos. I just unfortunately have not had enough time. But yes, it is actually very high on my priority list of things to watch. Samus Bully's Crade. Chronologically, Dread is the latest game on the franchise. At this point, Samus has fought the creatures that can warp realities, colossal beings, her evil doppelgangers, abominations that have been sealed away for destroying civilizations, just to name a few. Besides the Metroid DNA enhancing her even more and nearly being awakened, even with lost weaponry, she is at her strongest and most battle-hardened, experienced point in the franchise. At this point for her, Kraid is nothing more than an annoying bug that she doesn't even find fun squashing anymore. So first, your comment is actually the first one that YouTube has notified me of in a very long time. Second, yes, that is actually very, very well put. And actually, the kind of funny part about this video is this was from the point where the stuff I was uploading, I wasn't doing any like audio balancing. I wasn't really editing the videos other than maybe some like minor color grading. It was literally, I would just record stuff, sync up the timings with the audio and the video, and then just export it and upload it. This is like one of the first things that I really looked at the footage and thought, I could just like hard cut this, basically like before cutscene and after cutscene, and it fit together perfectly. I didn't do any audio edits, I didn't like blend anything, I didn't do like any, video frame manipulation. It fit perfectly. So it's one of those things that makes me wonder if maybe it was actually originally intended to, just be like a little joke, like a little nod where, the development team is like, you know what? Metroid is finally moving on. We've killed Ridley enough, we've rehashed Mother Brain enough times, so let's throw Kraid in purely as like a little scoff to say the past is in the past, and we're moving on to the future. I don't know if that was the case. I have no reason to actually think that, but like, it does have a little bit of that feeling. Oh, hey, and that is actually the last comment that I actually took a screenshot of. Actually, to be honest, this recording went on for like an hour longer than I was expecting it to. So I might actually split this into multiple parts. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I already know there's going to be a lot that I'm going to condense. But again, for anyone who's made it this far, I guess thanks for joining me. If I read your comment, then thanks for leaving it. I genuinely want to get better at actually, interacting with everyone. Even though I'm not really someone who like puts much value in interacting, or I guess trying to interact with a lot of the people that I watch on YouTube. When you're making stuff and people are actually like interacting with it and leaving comments and, all of that, it's kind of a very, very different experience. So, I don't know. I feel like acknowledging you guys and interacting back and whatnot is like the least I can do to show like, like actual gratitude. So, yeah.